This time of year, we're in the middle of summer out here. It's probably 90 degrees this morning. The shad are going to be real easy to catch, but they're pretty hard to keep. So the idea is to come down here and catch bait and then make it back to the lake you're going to fish in, and you want your shad to be as lively and frisky as you can to be appealing to the predator fish you're going to be fishing for. So this is an 8-foot radius, 6-panel, 3/8 inch mesh net with 1 pound of lead per radius foot. So there's 8 pounds of weights on this net. It's a fairly heavy net. I would recommend if you're just beginning, a 4 to 6 foot radius net is a lot easier to learn with. Use the same technique, it's just less net to deal with when you're making the throw. So it's easier. Then you can always use that smaller radius net later as well. I've got a 6-foot net back there in the back of the boat that I use when I'm throwing in really shallow water, because when the shad are really congregated, it helps not to catch 50 or 60 shad to use a smaller net. The ideal number to catch is about 10 or 15 shad in a throw. If you start getting 50 or 60 shad in your net, they're going to be bumping into one another, knocking scales off of the shad, and it's too much handling for them to be able to survive. So I'm going to coil up the line, and I'm left-handed, so if you're right-handed, you would just do this the opposite. I've got the line wrapped around my wrist. I'm coiled that up, and I'm going to pick the net up here by the horn. This is called the horn, where these braille lines go through the top of the net. So I'm going to grip that right there in my left hand. I've got all the line in my left hand, and now I've got the net by the horn, and I'm going to have the leads on the floor, and I'm going to grip that about at my waist level, and then put all that net in my left hand, like that. Now I'm going to split the net, split the lead lines in half, and I just toss it behind my back, and I've got half the leads in my left hand, half the leads in my right hand, and now I'll roll this over my left arm. All right, now I've got a high part and a low part. I'm going to pick the lead line up right in between and put that string in my mouth, not a piece of lead. Reach down on the front part, on the upper part, pick the lead line up, roll that off into my right hand, and now I'm ready to throw. Let that net sink down to the bottom. Pull it in, and hopefully we caught a few shad. Then one of the first things they do when you catch them in the net, they're going to poop. If I put shad right in my tank and they poop, that poop generates ammonia and all kinds of bad chemicals that would stress the fish out for the rest of the day. So by letting those fish poop in there and then put them in there, that takes care of that problem. So the next thing we would do after we catch the bait and let it rest in the blue tub for a while is take the baits out of the tub and put them in my bait tank that I'll use at the lake for the fishing trip. My tank is a 50-gallon tank. It has filtration and aeration going on inside the tank. This time of year, I also use pure oxygen in my bait tank. So I'm bubbling pure oxygen out of a stone that comes from a compressed air tank that I have up underneath the bow up there by my anchor rope. I also have a lot of water in there. That's city water that I pumped out of my hose, my garden hose at home. I like that water because it's clear. It's a little bit cooler than the river, but not much. I've added 1 cup of salt for every 10 gallons of water in there. So I have 5 cups of salt in this water. I also have a product called Haul that enables the shad to maintain his slime coating over his scales during the course of the day. That's why the water is kind of green looking. So I've got chlorine remover, salt, and Haul in the bait tank. To get started, you don't need a bait tank like this. There are some resources on the internet that will show you step-by-step instructions about how you can make a bait tank out of a 35-gallon plastic drum with some materials that you probably have laying around the house. You'd have to go buy a pump, but you can make a filter box out of a Rubbermaid container. You can put the pump in there. You can put hot water tank insulation around the outside of the thing, and you can have an insulated, filtered, aerated bait tank for less than $100. As I'm transferring them from my catch bucket into my bait tank, I don't want to catch a whole lot of shad in there at a time. I want to get like 2 or 3 at a time, or maybe 5. So I just scoop them out down there, turn them loose in the tank, get 2 or 3, and then they're not beating each other up. The least amount you can handle these fish this time of year, the better off you'll be.